Hello, everyone. This is Richard Eaton, your instructor for CTEC134 Database Administration. This video is to help you become familiar with SQL Server Management Studio application. So right now I am sharing my screen. And I'm going to start SQL Server Management Studio. In a previous video, I went through the steps on how you can use the start menu or you can use the search box. I have a shortcut on my taskbar to start it up, so I'm just going to use that one. I'm using SQL Server Management Studio on this particular computer. Excuse me, SQL Server Management Studio 2012 on this particular computer. And most of you will probably be using 2017. You won't see much, if any, differences between the two. So my connect to server screen is up. I'm just going to click the connect button. And what I'm seeing is the Object Explorer navigation window on the left. And the very top folder option is databases. I want to click databases. And you can see when I do that, I have a folder called System Databases. If you're using SQL Server 2017, you might have a folder called Database Snapshots. Those two databases, or those two folders, really contain databases that SQL Server uses to manage all the other databases. And if you look at my screen, you can see that I have several databases that I've created over the last few months. You may not have any at all, or you may have the TAL distributors _Rick database, because that was a week one assignment for you to follow the step-by-step instructions and load that particular database. That database is one we will be using over and over and over again over the next several weeks. The screen we're looking at right now, SQL Server Management Studio, is actually a GUI interface, a graphical user interface that kind of wraps a graphical shell around the database engine. The database engine requires SQL Server commands, and the GUI interface actually generates or creates SQL Server commands for you automatically. In this class, we will be using that GUI interface to verify the results of the commands that we actually create by typing actual SQL commands. So I'd like to demonstrate that. If I wanted to create, for example, a brand new database that doesn't exist, I have a test 1 and a test 2 here. I'm going to create a test 3 database. With the GUI interface, you can right click and say new database and just type the name you want. I'm going to call it test 3. I'm not going to use any spaces. I don't want to use any spaces in any of your object names throughout this entire class. So I'm not using any spaces. I'm going to do OK. Test 3 showed up automatically right here. That's not necessarily always going to be the case. Sometimes you're going to create objects and you won't see them in the navigation pane over here until you do a refresh. And the refresh button is right here. But before you refresh anything, you want to make sure you click an object that's at a higher level than the one that you're working with. And so in this case, databases is a higher level. So I'm going to click once on databases and then click the refresh button. and then what you should see is your new object, in this case, test 3. That is certainly one way to create a test database, but what we're going to do over the next several weeks is learn how to type commands to create database objects. So to give you an example of how to do that, I'm going to click this button called New Query. And that's going to open up a window over here. And basically what we've got here is a text editor designed specifically for SQL Server. And it allows us to type the necessary commands that we need to create objects. And in this case, if I wanted to type or create a test database, I would type the command create database and then name the database. And I want to name this one test 4. I don't want to name it test 3 because I already have a test 3 database. If I ran this right now, it would give me an error saying that you can't create a test 3 database because you already have one. So I'll make it a test 4 and then hit enter. And then I'm just going to execute it. And I didn't have any syntax errors here. And so that's why I got a command completed successfully, but I don't see it over here in my databases. So what I'm going to do is click databases and click the refresh key or the F5 key in the keyboard. And sure enough, I have a test 4 database. At this point, we could add tables to the database. And we could use the GUI interface to do it, or we could actually type commands into our text editor to actually create tables. And we could type commands to insert data and a lot of other things. At this point, I want to keep this video short. And so this is all I'm going to do at this point. What I do want to show you, though, is that since I typed an SQL command, I could save the command by clicking the Save button and navigate down to where I want to save the database. And in this case, I'm going to go to CTEC134 S20 class. I'm going to go down to my temp directory, and I'm going to call this, let's see, it's test 4. And it automatically will add a .sql to the end of the database file, and I'm going to do save. And then I'm going to close this. I don't need it anymore. I can open up this database anytime I want. Now, excuse me, I could open up the SQL command by clicking this File Open and navigating to the SQL command. There it is, and open it. And here it is again. So now I could add more commands. I could add data. I could do lots of things with it. I suggest that you examine the Talend Distributors database script that I created and see what you can learn from that. And in subsequent videos, I'll give you much more information. So that's it for now. I'm just going to close SQL Server down, and we're going to stop the video.